Look, so we are going to start with Anglo-Mysore Wars, and first of all, the thing is कि the rise of Mysore under Hyder Ali was viewed as a threat. जो भी neighboring states थे, they viewed it as a threat, right? So the rise of Mysore under Hyder Ali was viewed as a threat by neighboring states like Marathas, Nawab of Karnataka and Nizam of Hyderabad. ठीक है, Nawab of Karnataka and Nizam of Hyderabad. The Marathas and the Nizam formed an alliance against Mysore and cooperated with English company to curb Mysore. जो ये थे ना, they cooperated with English company to curb Mysore, but Nizam was equally apprehensive of the Marathas and therefore cooperated with English company against the Marathas. In all, there took place 4 Anglo-Mysore wars. Except the first war, British emerged victorious in all of them. The English company was mainly represented by Madras Presidency. The basic cause of the war was company's objective to determine the independent authority of Mysore rulers. The Marathas and the Nawab of Karnataka and Nizam of Hyderabad aligned with English from time to time to subdue the Mysore ruler. ठीक है, so जो भी 4 wars थे उसमें क्या होता था कि जो English company थी was mainly represented by Madras Presidency, and the basic cause of these war was company's objective to undermine the independent authority. कंपनी का जो ऑब्जेक्टिव था टू अंडरमाइन द इंडिपेंडेंट अथॉरिटी ऑफ मैसूर रूलर्स. ठीक है, और इवन जो मैसूर था वो एक्सपैंड कर रहा था, इसलिए मराठास, नवाब ऑफ कर्नाटक एंड निज़ाम ऑफ हैदराबाद भी उसी चीज़ से परेशान थे. ठीक है, सो आफ्टर द विक्ट्री इन द 4th वॉर द ब्रिटिश डिसइंटीग्रेटेड द मैसूर स्टेट एंड गेव वन पार्ट ऑफ द किंगडम टू द माइनर प्रिंस ऑफ वडिया डायनेस्टी. अब द फर्स्ट एंग्लो मैसूर वॉर में क्या हुआ था इसमें कि हैदर अली की जो फ्रेंडशिप थी विद फ्रेंच इज कंसीडर्ड एज वन रीजन ऑफ एंग्लो मैसूर वॉर्स. अनदर इम्पॉर्टेंट रीजन वॉज मैसूर बॉर्डर डिस्प्यूट बिटवीन मद्रास गवर्नमेंट एंड नवाब ऑफ कर्नाटक. तो जो मद्रास गवर्नमेंट था एंड नवाब ऑफ कर्नाटक था, हैदर अली की फ्रेंडशिप विद फ्रेंच इज कंसीडर्ड एज वन रीजन फॉर एंग्लो मैसूर वॉर. अनदर इम्पॉर्टेंट रीजन वॉज मैसूर का बॉर्डर डिस्प्यूट बिटवीन मद्रास गवर्नमेंट एंड नवाब ऑफ कर्नाटक. The immediate context of war was provided by the rivalry over the control of northern circus. Actually इन दोनों के बीच में ना rivalry थी, इस चीज़ को लेके rivalry for the control over northern circus. ठीक है, northern circus को लेके rivalry थी इनको. ठीक है, तो ये immediate context था. वैसे तो background में context बहुत सारे थे. The English company was seeking an overland connection between the territories in Madras and Bengal. The northern circus, held by French until 1758, was a series of coastal territories that lay in between. Robert Clive demanded the access to the area from Nizam of Hyderabad. Robert Clive ने क्या करा? Robert Clive को access चाहिए था इस area का from Nizam of Hyderabad, which the Nizam initially rejected. However, 1766 में जो इंग्लिश कंपनी थी वो एक्सपैंड करने लगी इन नदर्न सर्कल्स एंड द निज़ाम ऑब्जेक्टेड एंड कंसीडर्ड गोइंग टू वॉर विद इंग्लिश, बट लेटर साइंड अ ट्रीटी विद कंपनी इन व्यू of its poor financial condition. As per the treaty, the company got northern circus and in return promised to give military support to Nizam in endeavours against Hyder Ali. ठीक है, so however 1766 में इंडियन इंग्लिश कंपनी जो थी began expanding in northern circus and Nizam objected and considered going to war with English, but later signed a treaty with company in view of poor financial conditions. ठीक है, तो इसने क्या कहा कि पुअर फाइनेंशियल कंडीशंस की वजह से देख however 1766 में कंपनी एक्सपैंडेड इन नदर्न सर्कस एंड निज़ाम ऑब्जेक्टेड एंड कंसीडर्ड गोइंग टू वॉर विद इंग्लिश, पर उसका वो बहुत पुअर था इसलिए उसने ना ये ट्रीटी साइन कर ली एंड प्रॉमिस टू गिव मिलिट्री सपोर्ट टू निज़ाम इन एंडेवर्स अगेंस्ट हैदर अली. एट द सेम टाइम निज़ाम हैड फॉर्म्ड एन अलायंस विद मराठास. Nizam formed an alliance with Marathas as both felt threatened by expansionist attitude of Hyder. Hyder himself was annoyed by English as they had set up fortified outposts at Vellore. ठीक है। सो यहाँ क्या है कि एट द सेम टाइम निज़ाम हैज़ फॉर्म्ड एन अलायंस विद मराठास एज दे बोथ फेल्ट थ्रेटन्ड बाय एक्सपेंशनिस्ट एटीट्यूड ऑफ हैदर की वजह से। अंदर निज़ाम जो थे इन दिस वे मराठास, निज़ाम एंड इंग्लिश एंटर्ड अ ट्राई पार्टी ट्रीटी। कौन कौन? मराठा, निज़ाम एंड इंग्लिश एंटर्ड अ ट्राई पार्टी ट्रीटी against Hyder Ali and attacked Mysore in 1766. But Hyder successfully persuaded the Nizam and Marathas. हैदर ने ना ईजिली मैनिपुलेट कर लिया निज़ाम एंड मराठास को कि भाई तुम किसका साथ दे रहे हो, तुम अपने बंदे हो, ठीक है। He then launched an attack against the company and reached up to the gates of Madras. He forced the Madras Council to sign a peace on his terms in April 1769, also known as Treaty of Madras. As per the treaty, both powers agreed to help each other in case of attack by third party. तो ये देख तो जो हैदर अली था उसने परसुएट कर दिया और ही देन लॉन्च एन अटैक अगेंस्ट कंपनी एंड रीच अप टू द गेट ऑफ मद्रास. He forced Madras Council to sign peace on his term in April 1769, known as Treaty of Madras. As per the treaty, both the powers agreed to help each other in the case attack of third party. Fine. So यहाँ पर साइन हुई थी Treaty of Madras, right? Fine. So यहाँ साइन हुई थी Treaty of Madras, and then we came expansion under various governor generals. Expansion under various governor general. Fine. Like expansion under Warren Hastings, first Anglo Mysore मराठा में देख वॉरेन हेस्टिंग्स के अंदर पता है क्या हुआ था? फर्स्ट एंग्लो मराठा वॉर, सेकंड मैसूर वॉर. मैसूर वॉर की जो इनिशियली स्टार्टिंग थी ना वो पहले हुई थी क्योंकि जो ब्रिटिश था वो पहले मैसूर को ख़त्म करना चाहता था एंड देन स्लोली एंड ग्रेजुअली इट मूव टूवर्ड्स मराठा. तो इसलिए वॉरेन हेस्टिंग्स जो कि 7285 इज द कोड ऑफ वॉरेन हेस्टिंग्स, उसके टाइम पे फर्स्ट एंग्लो मराठा वॉर हुआ, सेकेंड मैसूर वॉर हुआ. देन अपना आता है एक्सपेंशन अंडर कॉर्नवालिस, थर्ड मैसूर वॉर. Expansion under Cornwallis, third Mysore War. Fine. Then expansion under Lord Wellesley 98 से 5 तक, fourth Mysore War and second Anglo-Maratha War. Expansion under Lord Hastings, third Anglo-Maratha War 1817 से 18 तक. तो देख पहले वॉरेन हेस्टिंग्स में, कॉर्नवालिस में मैसूर वॉर हुआ, एक्सपेंशन इन लॉर्ड वेलेस्ली में, फोर्थ मैसूर वॉर एंड सेकेंड एंग्लो मराठा वॉर हुआ, और एक्सपेंशन अंडर लॉर्ड हेस्टिंग्स में थर्ड एंग्लो मराठा वॉर हुआ. फर्स्ट गवर्नर जनरल वॉरेन हेस्टिंग्स बिकेम द डेप्यूटी रूलर ऑफ मद्रास. देख वॉरेन हेस्टिंग्स कहाँ पर है? लॉर्ड हेस्टिंग्स और वॉरेन हेस्टिंग्स दोनों अलग चीज़ हैं. तो अभी हम ये देखेंगे जिसका कोड है, इसका कोड क्या है 70, 72 to 85, ठीक है. तो फिर फर्स्ट गवर्नर जनरल वॉरेन हेस्टिंग्स बिकेम द डेप्यूटी रूलर ऑफ मद्रास आफ्टर द एंड ऑफ फर्स्ट एंग्लो मैसूर वॉर. मैसूर वॉर ख़त्म हो चुका था, फिर वो आया था. इन 1772 ही अपॉइंटेड एज गवर्नर ऑफ कैलकटा प्रेसिडेंसी, द मोस्ट इम्पॉर्टेंट ऑफ द 3 मेजर प्रेसिडेंसीज and of Calcutta, Madras and Bombay. In 1774, Hastings was considered as the natural choice to be the first Governor General. The task before Warren Hastings was enormous. He had transformed a company of traders into force of administrators and developed a workable system of administration in Bengal. Most importantly, he had to rehabilitate the company's finances. ठीक है, जैसे कि administrative reforms हैं. In 1772, it was decided to end the dual system of administration set up by Clive. The company now decided to collect and land revenue itself and not through Naib Diwan, who was earlier appointed by Clive of the purpose. Thus, President was required to take over the charge of entire management of revenues of Bengal, Bihar and Odisha. 1772 में इसने एडमिनिस्ट्रेटिव रिफॉर्म क्या क्या करवाए थे? इसने सोचा था कि अब हम डुअल सिस्टम ऑफ एडमिनिस्ट्रेशन को एंड कर देंगे. द कंपनी नाउ डिसाइडेड टू कलेक्ट लैंड रेवेन्यू इटसेल्फ एंड नॉट थ्रू नायब दीवान हु वॉज अर्लियर अपॉइंटेड बाय क्लाइव. क्लाइव ने नायब दीवान अपॉइंट करे थे, उन्हें हटा दिए गए थे क्योंकि अब कंपनी खुद से कलेक्ट करेगी. दस द प्रेसिडेंट वॉज रिक्वायर्ड टू टेक ओवर द चार्ज ऑफ इंटायर मैनेजमेंट ऑफ रेवेन्यू ऑफ बंगाल, बिहार और उड़ीसा. वॉरेन हेस्टिंग्स, ठीक है. The council formed the Board of Revenue and company appointed its own European officers called collectors to collect the land revenue and management revenue affairs. The treasury also removed from Murshidabad to Calcutta. Fine. यहाँ पर जो रेवेन्यू रिफॉर्म्स थे 1772 में हेस्टिंग्स ने बोला, हेस्टिंग्स मेड अ 5-year settlement, sequential settlement और पंचशाला बंदोबस्त ऑफ लैंड रेवेन्यू बाय क्रूड मेथड ऑफ फार्मिंग आउट estates टू हायर बिडर. द रेवेन्यू फार्मर्स हैड नो परमानेंट इंटरेस्ट. रेवेन्यू फार्मर्स का ना कोई भी परमानेंट इंटरेस्ट नहीं था इन लैंड एंड देयरफॉर दे ट्राई टू एक्सटॉर्ट द मैक्सिमम रेवेन्यू. ये क्या करते थे, ये ना 5 साल के लिए किसी एक को रेवेन्यू दे देते थे और लाइक इंचार्ज बना देते थे, लेकिन उन्हें लैंड में कोई भी इंटरेस्ट नहीं था. दे जस्ट वांटेड टू अर्न मोर एंड मोर रेवेन्यूज. Officers of the company themselves participated in the bidding under the name of their servants. Warren Hastings himself was accused of such forgery. Hence, this system caused much hardship to the farmers and failed miserably. After expiry of 5-year settlement, Hastings reverted to the system of annual settlement in 1777, once again based on the method of farming out estate to the highest bidder. फिर अपना आता है जुडिशियल रिफॉर्म्स. जुडिशियल रिफॉर्म्स जो कि हेस्टिंग्स मेड सेवरल सक्सेसफुल रिफॉर्म्स इन एग्जिस्टिंग जुडिशियल सिस्टम ऑफ बंगाल. बिफोर हेस्टिंग्स सिविल एंड क्रिमिनल जजेस वर डिसाइडेड बाय जमींदार. हेस्टिंग्स के पहले क्या होता था कि जो अपना सिविल एंड क्रिमिनल केसेस थे ना वो जमींदार डिसाइड करता था. ही देन ट्राई टू बिल्ड अप अ जुडिशियल फ्रेमवर्क बेस्ड ऑन मुगल मॉडल एंड सेट अप दीवानी अदालत, डिसाइडेड सिविल केसेस, अपील्स सेंट टू सदर दीवानी and Fauzdari Adalat. These courts followed the Muslim and Hindu laws. However, as per Regulating Act 1773, a Supreme Court competent to try to all British subjects was set up to Calcutta, which followed English law. This dualism in legal system continued throughout the company's rule in India. Hastings also attempted to codify Hindu and Muslim law. In 1776, a translation of the code in Sanskrit appeared, Code of Gentile Law. Expansion under Warren Hastings comprised First Anglo-Maratha War and Second Mysore War. First Anglo-Maratha War हुआ था और Second Anglo-Mysore War हुआ था. Hastings के अंडर कब हुआ था, 1775 में हुआ था to 82, एंड Second Anglo-Mysore हुआ था 80 से 84 तक. ठीक है. नाउ वी विल कम इन सेकेंड एंग्लो मैसूर वॉर. मैसूर वॉर में क्या हुआ था, फर्स्ट ऑफ ऑल इसकी डेट क्या थी, 80 से 84 तक. और अपना जो फर्स्ट एंग्लो मैसूर था वो 67 से 99 तक. 67 से नहीं, एंग्लो मैसूर वॉर 67 से 99 में हुआ था. उसके बाद 67 से 69 तक सिर्फ 2 साल था एंग्लो मैसूर वॉर फर्स्ट वाला. और अपना 80 से 84 था जो कि 2 साल के लिए था सेकेंड वाला. ठीक है. सो द ब्रिटिश had no intention of sticking to the Treaty of Madras when Marathas invaded Hyder territory in 1777. सो जो सेकेंड एंग्लो मैसूर वॉर था उसमें क्या हो रहा था कि the English company the British had no intention of sticking to the Treaty of Madras when Madras invaded Hyder territory in 1771. जो मद्रास ने इन्वेड करा था हैदर की टेरिटरी में, एंड द ब्रिटिश हैड नो इंटेंशन ऑफ स्टिकिंग टू ट्रीटी ऑफ मद्रास. ब्रिटिशर्स ने कहा था ना कि वो मदद करेंगे, बट उन्होंने नहीं करी. मराठास जब इन्वेड करे अपने हैदर की टेरिटरी में, सो द इंग्लिश कंपनी डिड नॉट कम टू इट्स हेल्प. So it now was a question of time before a second round of war between company and Mysore state started. The first Anglo-Mysore war में क्या हुआ था अपना कि at the time of Nizam has formed alliance with Marathas as both felt threatened by the expansionist attitude. हैदर ने सबको अपने साइड कर लिया था और इसलिए वो लोग जीत गए थे, फाइन। और ट्रीटी ऑफ मद्रास साइन करी थी। लेकिन फिर सेकेंड एंग्लो मैसूर वॉर हुआ, उसमें क्या था कि ऑन द अदर हैंड फ्रेंच प्रूव्ड more helpful to Hyder, and with this military demand as saltpeter, lead guns and other military hardware naturally found their way into Mysore through Mahe. ठीक है, so English company did not come to its help. French proved more helpful to Hyder with military demands of saltpeter, lead guns and other military hardware naturally found their way into Mysore through Mahe. French settlement on Malabar coast within Hyder jurisdiction. Further, American War of Independence had broken out 1775 and French help to American colonists made Governor General Warren Hastings extremely anxious. तो अपना जो फ्रेंच था made Governor General Warren Hastings extremely anxious. Of Hyder's relation with French. Under these circumstances, the companies attempted to capture Mahe. कंपनी ने क्या सोचा कि हम लोग माहे को कैप्चर करते हैं, which is a direct challenge to Hyder Ali. अगर माहे इसके अंदर चला गया तो which is challenge to Hyder Ali. English had also offended Hyder Ali when English force trespassed on Hyder territory in order to take over Guntur in northern Sarkars. The English capture of Mahe provided immediate pretext of Second Mysore War. The English won over the Marathas and Nizam Hastings bribed Nizam with cession of Guntur district. जो इंग्लिश था उसने कैप्चर कर लिया माहे को, प्रोवाइडेड द इमीडिएट प्रीटेक्स्ट ऑफ सेकेंड एंग्लो मैसूर वॉर। तो समझ आ गया ना। सबसे पहले तो जब मराठास ने अटैक करा मैसूर पे, सो द इंग्लिश डिडंट हेल्प इट, एंड ऑन द अदर हैंड उसने माहे को कैप्चर भी करा, जिसने कि बहुत अच्छा ऑब्वियस रीज़न प्रोवाइड करा फॉर हैविंग एन एंग्लो मैसूर वॉर, सेकेंड एंग्लो मैसूर वॉर. द इंग्लिश वॉन over the Marathas and the Nizam Hastings bribed Nizam with cession of Guntur district. In July 1781, English army under Sir Eyre Coote defeated Hyder at Porto Novo. The French help under Admiral Bailly de Suffren reached in India in 1782. The skirmishes continued, but later in December, Hyder died of cancer due to course of Second Mysore War. Tipu, son successor of Hyder, continued the war against the British. However, 1783 में the American War of Independence ended. 1783 में American War of Independence end हो गया. Thereafter, Suffren sailed back to Europe, leaving Tipu to fight. पहले तो फ्रेंच अपना हेल्प कर रहा था ना, जो एडमिरल बेल डे सफरे था, लेकिन जैसे ही अमेरिकन वॉर ऑफ इंडिपेंडेंस ख़त्म हुआ वो भाग गया अपने खुद के बैटल्स लड़ने. सो जो मद्रास गवर्नमेंट था डिजायर्ड पीस टू ड्यू टू लैक ऑफ रिसोर्सेज एंड अनसर्टेनिटी ऑफ मराठा एटीट्यूड. Tipu also needed time to strengthen his own administration. Thus, what ended with Treaty of Mangalore. तो यहाँ पर अपनी कौन सी ट्रीटी हुई थी? ट्रीटी ऑफ मैंगलोर, राइट. जो भी ट्रीटी ऑफ मैंगलोर हुई थी. और गवर्नर जनरल लॉर्ड कॉर्नवालिस जो था गवर्नर जनरल अपना जो लॉर्ड कॉर्नवालिस था ना, कॉर्नवालिस वॉज सेंट टू इंडिया स्पेशली चार्ज ड्यू टू फाइंडिंग आउट अ सेटिस्फैक्ट्री सोल्यूशन ऑफ लैंड रेवेन्यू प्रॉब्लम. लैंड रेवेन्यू की प्रॉब्लम वो फेस कर रहे थे ना, तो उसने बोला था कि हमें एक सेटिस्फैक्ट्री सोल्यूशन चाहिए of land revenue problem, and the administrative superstructure built by Cornwallis remained substantially in force till 1858. वो वॉरेन हेस्टिंग्स का था परमानेंट सेटलमेंट वाला सिस्टम. रेवेन्यू रिफॉर्म्स इसने क्या कराए थे? 1790 में कॉर्नवालिस डिसाइडेड टू रिकॉग्नाइज द जमींदार एज द ओनर ऑफ लैंड। इसने क्या बोला कि भाई मुझे झंझट नहीं चाहिए, आई विल कंसीडर जमींदार एज ओनर ऑफ द लैंड। एंड रेवेन्यू रिफॉर्म्स में क्या करा था उसने, 1790 में कॉर्नवालिस डिसाइडेड टू रिकॉग्नाइज द जमींदार एज ओनर्स ऑफ लैंड subject to annual payment of land revenue to a state, and a 10-year settlement was made। ठीक है, a 10-year settlement was made with zamindar on the basis of 89% of rental leaving 11% of zamindars। In 1793 the decennial settlement was declared permanent settlement of Bengal। Fine। Cornwallis Code 1793 में Cornwallis compiled judicial reforms in form of famous Cornwallis Code based on principle of separation of powers। The code divested the collectors of the judicial powers and left him with duty of revenue administration alone। सबसे पहली बात तो ये है कि इसने बोला था कि जो ज़मींदार है वही ओनर ऑफ लैंड है। ठीक है, उसके बाद अपना 1793 में कॉर्नवालिस कंपाइल्ड हिज जुडिशियल रिफॉर्म्स इन फेमस कॉर्नवालिस कोड विच इज़ बेस्ड ऑन प्रिंसिपल ऑफ सेपरेशन ऑफ पावर्स। फाइन। सो जो हम कह सकते हैं कि जुडिशियल रिफॉर्म्स में सेपरेशन ऑफ पावर्स कौन लाया था, वो लाया था कॉर्नवालिस। द कोड डाइवेस्टेड द कलेक्टर्स ऑफ ऑल द जुडिशियल पावर्स। The judicial powers were given to new class of officer, district judge। The judicial powers were given to new class of officer which is called district judge। Reforms of criminal law। अब criminal law के क्या reforms हैं? Cornwallis brought about changes in criminal law as well। Cornwallis ने criminal law में भी changes लाए। Well, even though Muslim took the criminal law to be divinely ordained, for instance in case of murder, the law officers were now to be guided by intention of murder and not merely the manner of perpetration। The usual punishment of amputation of body part was to be replaced by imprisonment or fine। Further, non-Muslims were now allowed to give testimony against Muslim in criminal cases। Undesirable effect। Though judicial reform of Cornwallis was based on principle of equity, its immediate context produced many undesirable effects। The new code was unfamiliar and elaborate beyond the comprehension of common man। Traditional judicial functionaries were replaced by European judges who knew very little about Indian customs and habit। ठीक है, सो अब क्या हो रहा था कि जो ट्रेडिशनल जुडिशियल फंक्शनरीज थे वो इंडिया के डिसीजंस ले रहे थे, who themselves knew very less about Indians। Suppression of the bribery of corruption। Cornwallis himself was beyond the greed for money that had tarnished the name of Clive and Warren Hastings। Cornwallis forbade the company employees from indulging in private trade। Cornwallis forbade, fine, to indulge in private trade and required each officer to declare his property under oath before he left India। He also raised the salary of company's officials in order to desist them from indulging in corruption। Europeanization of administration। Unfortunately, Cornwallis, like most of the countrymen, suffered from the evil infection of racial discrimination। So, जो Cornwallis था, he suffered from racial discrimination। He has very low opinion of Indians in general and regarding every Indians to be corrupt। He sought to reserve all higher service for Europeans and reduce the Indians to hewer of goods and drawer of water। For instance, in the army, Indians could not rise above the position of Jemadar or Subedar, and in civil services not above deputy collector। In this way, he put the official seat of the policy of racialism that infested Anglo-Indian relations till the very end। Expansion under Cornwallis। इसमें क्या हुआ था, थर्ड मैसूर वॉर हुआ था कॉर्नवालिस के अंदर। अब देख, थर्ड एंग्लो मैसूर वॉर में क्या हुआ था, द अबव ट्रीटी वॉज ओनली टेम्पोररी। The above treaty was only a temporary respite before the final showdown। Lord Cornwallis has become the Governor General in 1786, and through his diplomacy he brought the Marathas and the Nizam to English side। ठीक है, So above territory was only temporary. Despite the final showdown, Lord Cornwallis was Governor General in 1786, and through his diplomacy he brought Marathas or Nizam को to English side. Convinced to the inevitability of Tipu of war, Tipu also sought help from Turks and French by sending embassies to Constantinople and France under 1784 to 87. However, Tipu's attack on Travancore became the immediate cause of Third Anglo-Mysore War. Raja of Travancore had purchased Jaikotai Cranganore from Dutch in Cochin, and since Cochin was tributary state of Mysore, Tipu considered this as a violation of sovereign rights. Thus, in April 1790, टीपू ने ना अटैक कर दिया किस पे ट्रावनकोर में. द इंग्लिश वर ऑलरेडी इचिंग फॉर अ वॉर एंड डिसाइडेड टू साइड विद रूलर ऑफ ट्रावनकोर. देख, टीपू का जो अटैक था ऑन ट्रावनकोर बिकेम द इमीडिएट कॉज ऑफ थर्ड एंग्लो मैसूर वॉर. जो राजा थे ऑफ ट्रावनकोर की, उन्होंने ना परचेज कर रखा था जायकोटाई एंड क्लैंगनोर फ्रॉम डच इन कोचिन, एंड सिंस कोचिन वॉज अ ट्रिब्यूटरी स्टेट ऑफ मैसूर, Cochin was a tributary state of Mysore, Tipu considered this as a violation of sovereign rights. ठीक है, लेकिन जो ट्रावनकोर के राजा थे उन्होंने खरीदा था डच और कोचिन से, है ना. पर टीपू ने कहा कि भाई तुम कैसे बेच सकते हो जब हमारा इस पे राइट है. दिस इज अ ट्रिब्यूटरी ऑफ मैसूर, राइट. सो टीपू कंसिडर दिस इज अ वायलेशन ऑफ सोवरेन राइट. दस 1790 में टीपू अटैक्ड ट्रावनकोर. द इंग्लिश वर ऑलरेडी itching for a war and decided to side with ruler of Travancore. The war started in 1790, supported by Maratha and the Nizam troops. Cornwallis himself headed a large army and approached Seringapatam. Tipu suffered a serious setback and showed initiative for peace. Thus, Treaty of Seringapatam was signed. क्या साइन हुई थी? Treaty of Seringapatam was signed in March 1792, and Tipu had to surrender half of the territory of the company and its allies, while the company required Baramahal territory from Krishna to beyond the Pennar. Tipu was also required to pay war indemnity of 3 crores, but as he was unable to pay this sum immediately, his sons were kept as prisoners with Cornwallis. Tipu lamented after losing Malabar, I can ruin their resources by land but cannot dry up the sea. On the other hand, Cornwallis declared, we have effectively crippled our enemy. So देख, ये वॉर कब हुई थी? 1790 में. Supported by Maratha and the Nizam, Cornwallis himself headed a large army and approached Seringapatam. Tipu suffered a serious setback and showed initiative for peace. This Treaty of Seringapatam was signed in March 1792. And Tipu had Dindigur and Malabar. The Marathas gained territory on Tungabhadra side and Nizam acquired territory from Krishna beyond Pennar. Tipu was also required to pay war indemnity of 3 crores, but he was unable to pay the sum immediately. His 2 sons were kept as prisoners with Cornwallis. Tipu के जो 2 sons थे, they were kept as prisoners with Cornwallis. Tipu lamented after losing Malabar, I can ruin their resources by land, but I cannot dry up the sea. On the other hand, Cornwallis declared, we have effectively crippled our enemy without making our friend too formidable. Right. So after Cornwallis, Sir John Shore became the Governor General, but he adopted the policy of non-intervention towards Mysore. Fine. So after Cornwallis, Sir John Shore became the Governor General, but he adopted the policy of non-intervention towards Mysore. जॉन शोर ने क्या अडॉप्ट करा था? अडॉप्टेड पॉलिसी ऑफ नॉन इंटरवेंशन टूवर्ड्स मैसूर. फॉर दिस रीजन जॉन शोर इज नोन एज फादर ऑफ पॉलिसी ऑफ नॉन इंटरवेंशन. फादर ऑफ पॉलिसी ऑफ नॉन इंटरवेंशन कौन थे? जॉन शोर थे. सर जॉन लॉरेंस ऑल्सो अडॉप्टेड द पॉलिसी ऑफ नॉन इंटरफेरेंस टूवर्ड्स अफगानिस्तान. सो गवर्नर जनरल लॉर्ड वेलेस्ली. Lord Richard Cole-Wellesley came to India in 1798 at a time where British were locked in a life and death struggle with France all over the world. He was an imperialist to core, and he believed he was an imperialist to the core, and he believed only way to safeguard India against French danger was by bringing as many as Indian states as possible under British control. To achieve this political aim, Wellesley relied on three methods: the system of subsidiary alliance, outright war, and assumption of territories of previously subordinated ruler. So this was his method. किसका मेथड? वेलेस्ली का मेथड. क्या था कि या तो तुम सब्सिडरी अलायंस कर लो या फिर सिस्टम ऑफ look, subsidiary alliance, outright war, and assumption of territories of previously subordinated ruler. Subsidiary alliance में क्या है कि अपना Indian states had to surrender its foreign relation into the hands of the company. It could not negotiate with any other Indian states without consulting with Governor General. Company assured कि जो Indian states था complete protection against foreign as well as internal threat. English force was stationed within the territory of Indian states for its protection in territory. English force was stationed with territory of Indian state for its protection in return for an annual subsidy in the cash of the company. The larger state has to cede a part of territory for purpose. A British resident was posted in the capital. The Indian state could not employ any European in its service without the approval of the British. Negative impact on Indian state. The system has several disadvantages for Indian state. जो सिस्टम है ना उसमें बहुत सारे डिसएडवांटेजेस हैं फॉर इंडियन स्टेट्स. इट ऑल्सो लेड टू इंटरनल डीके ऑफ स्टेट इन मेनी वेज. Politically, ruler signing a subsidiary alliance virtually signed away his independence. He lost the right to self-defense as well as to maintain independent foreign relations. तो जो negative impact है इंडियन स्टेट्स के वो यही था कि पॉलिटिकली जो रूलर साइनिंग सब्सिडियरी अलायंस वो ना अपनी पूरी एक तरह से इंडिपेंडेंस देता है जिसको वो साइन कर रहा है. ही लॉस्ट राइट टू सेल्फ डिफेंस एज वेल एज मेंटेन इंडिपेंडेंट फॉरेन रिलेशन. Economically, it was drained as the annual subsidy was arbitrarily fixed and was very high. Usually, 1/3 of the annual revenue of the state, much beyond paying capacity of the state. The ruler transferred the burden onto people by means of heavy taxes, impoverishing them. Its army was disbanded, which also resulted in loss of livelihood of several thousand people. Morally, it made ruler irresponsible and oppressive, as they no longer feared their subjects. They were fully protected of English company from internal as well as external aggression. Fine. So negative impacts of Indian states क्या है कि politically उनकी sovereignty चली जाती है, economically वो drained out हो जाते हैं, morally वो oppressive और irresponsible हो जाते हैं. Advantages for British क्या? On the other hand, subsidiary alliance was very much advantageous to British in the following ways. The British could maintain a large army, that too at the cost of India state, without arousing the suspicion of other European nations. It allowed company to counter the French threat, as subsidiary ally was required to dismiss all Frenchmen from its service. The company became intermediary to the interstate relation, thereby closing all the possibilities of state coming together in conspiracy against the British. It also allowed them to gradually increase their control over the signatory state by transforming the British resident from political agent to virtual dictator. The state could be overthrown easily with the help of English army stationed in very heart of the Indian state. Thus, subsidiary system proved a Trojan horse tactic. It has been truly said that it was a system of fattening allies like oxen till they are worthy of being devoured. ठीक है. So अपना जो ब्रिटिश था, it could maintain a large army, that too at cost of Indian states, and without arising the suspicion of other European nations. Allow करता है कंपनी को to counter the French threat as well as subsidiary ally. Was required to dismiss all the Frenchmen from its service. The company became the intermediary in the interstate relation, एडवांटेज क्या क्या थे कि ब्रिटिश वुड मेंटेन अ लार्ज आर्मी एट कॉस्ट ऑफ इंडियन स्टेट्स, अलाउड कंपनी टू काउंटर फ्रेंच थ्रेट एज सब्सिडरी अलाइड, मतलब वो राजाज वगैरह को प्रोटेक्ट करने के अलावा भी वो फ्रेंच थ्रेट से भी खुद ही बच सकते थे, ठीक है। It also allowed them to gradually increase their control over signatory state by transforming British resident from political agent to virtual dictator. The state could be overthrown easily with the help of English army stationed in the very heart of the Indian state. Subsidiary alliance was signed with following: Nizam of Hyderabad, Mysore, Tanjore, Awadh, Peshwa, Bhosle, Raja of Berar, Sindhia, Holkar, Rajput states of Jodhpur, Jaipur, Macheri, Bundi, Bharatpur were also annexed. Though the detailed provision of alliance varied from state to state, Wellesley was particularly severe with the Carnatic, Tanjore, Surat. Karl Marx said कि जो native states हैं, it virtually ceased to exist from the moment they became subsidiary to the company. If you divide the revenue of a country between two governments, you are soon to cripple the sources of one or both administration of both. Sir Thomas Munder said कि a state purchased security by sacrifice of independence of national character. Do not confuse G.G.R.C. Wellesley with younger brother Arthur Wellesley. Arthur began his career as a soldier and later rose to become Prime Minister of United Kingdom. He arrived in India in 1797 and later same year he learned कि his brother जो है was appointed as Governor General and participated in the 4th Anglo-Mysore War and the 2nd Anglo-Maratha War. So 4th Anglo-Mysore War में हुआ क्या था? जो लॉर्ड वेलेस्ली था, he sailed India in 1797, probably the toughest year in English history, जब England was struggling for its survival against France all over the world. Napoleon Bonaparte had conquered the Egypt and Syria and now returned to India. In 1801, he made alliance with Caesar Paul of Russia. Tsar Paul of Russia drew up serious plan to invade India via Herat and Kandahar. English well realized the consequence of defeat at the hands of Napoleon. It would mean end of its commerce that had brought the immense financial and political gain to us. Napoleon's place may appear fanciful today, but contemporaries did not regard them as that. To them posed a very real danger, and Wellesley could ill afford to take any risk. In Napoleon's plan, Tipu Sultan of Mysore saw right opportunity to oust the English from India. He entered into negotiation with French and made elaborate preparation for war. He planted flag of liberty against at Seringapatam. So Napoleon के plan में टीपू सुल्तान of Mysore saw right opportunity to oust English from French. He entered into negotiations with French and started making elaborate preparations for war with company. He planted a flag of liberty. एक flag of liberty था जो कि उसने plant करा था at Seringapatam and styled himself citizen of Tipu. He employed the French commandant Monsieur Raymond and raised a corps of 14,000 men with the help. Wellesley concluded that it was urgently needed to bring the Indian states. It was urgently needed to bring Indian states under English sphere of influence and tame not only actual allies but potential allies of France. For this purpose, he tried to convert as many as Indian states into subsidiary allies of the company, either by persuasion or by force. After he successfully forced treaty of subsidiary alliance upon the Nizam, he turned the attention to Tipu Sultan. तो एक वेलेस्ली ने पहले क्या करा, अपने प्रोटेक्शन के लिए बहुत सारे इंडियन स्टेट्स को सब्सिडियरी अलायंस में कन्वर्ट करा. आफ्टर ही सक्सेसफुली फोर्स सब्सिडियरी अलायंस अपॉन निज़ाम, ही टर्न हिज अटेंशन टू टीपू सुल्तान. वेलेस्ली एस्टिमेटेड कि जो फ्रेंच इन्वेजन है वाया रेड सी, इट कुड ओनली बी पॉसिबल आफ्टर mid 1799, he decided to deal with Tipu before that. After Tipu refused all offers of Governor General for acceptance of subsidiary alliance, war began in 1799 and was over by May in the same year. English company won a decisive victory at Battle of Seringamapatnam, and Tipu was killed during defense of the city before French help could reach him. He died a hero's death and defending his capital. Much of remaining Mysorean territory was annexed by the company, Nizam and Marathas, giving company the command over seacoast of the lower peninsula. Any French mischief from the Malabar coast was now rendered impossible. Remaining core around Mysore and Seringamapatnam was restored to minor Indian prince, two-year Prince Krishnaraj of Wadiyar dynasty, whose forefathers had been actual rulers before Hyder Ali became de facto ruler. A special treaty of subsidiary alliance was imposed on Wadiyar king, and Mysore virtually became dependency of the British. The Wadiyar ruled the remnant of the state of Mysore until 1947, when it joined the Union of India. Tipu's family members were imprisoned in Vellore and his two sons were pensioned. After success in the Fourth Anglo-Mysore War, Wellesley arrogantly pronounced, "Now the kingdom of East is under our feet." So अगर हम इनको summarize करें, after Mysore, Wellesley turned his attention to Awadh, forcing the Nawab to accept subsidiary alliance. Next, Wellesley turned his attention to Marathas, the only power of importance in French nest outside French protection. The French officials in Sindhia army was beyond Wellesley toleration, and Maratha influence over the western coast also left open possibility of French infiltration from that corner. Even though Governor General का जो offer था of subsidiary alliance was turned down, internal dissensions in the Maratha camps drove the Peshwa into the company's trap in 1802. So if we want to summarize, सबसे पहले जैसे कि हम देखते हैं, फर्स्ट मैसूर वॉर का इमीडिएट कंटेक्स्ट क्या था? प्रोवाइडेड बाय राइवलरी ओवर कंट्रोल ऑफ नदन सरकार्स. Rivalry ultimately led to tripartite treaty between Maratha Nizam and English against Hyder Ali, began with the attack on Mysore by allies in 1766. Soon Hyder Ali persuaded Nizam and Marathas to join hand with him against the English, and finally forced Madras Council to sign a peace on Treaty of Madras 1769. रिजल्ट क्या था कि जो हैदर अली था हैज़ एन एज ओवर द इंग्लिश. सेकेंड मैसूर वॉर में क्या हुआ था कि इमीडिएट कंटेक्स्ट था कैप्चर ऑफ माहे बाय इंग्लिश. इन सेकेंड मैसूर वॉर इमीडिएट कंटेक्स्ट वाज कैप्चर ऑफ माहे by the English. In this war, Marathas and the Nizam sided with English, and the main battle of Porto Novo ended with Treaty of Mangalore. Result, it was a drawn struggle. So second Anglo-Mysore War में क्या हुआ था? Immediate context, capture of Mahe by English. English ने माहे को capture करा. Maratha and Nizam sided with English. Main battle fought, Battle of Porto Novo, Treaty of Mangalore. थर्ड मैसूर, और ये कौन था यहाँ पर पता नहीं, यहाँ पर वॉरेन हास्टिंग्स, यहाँ लॉर्ड कॉर्नवालिस एंड यहाँ लॉर्ड वेलेस्ली. उसके बाद थर्ड मैसूर वॉर में इमीडिएट कंटेक्स्ट प्रोवाइडेड बाय टीपूज अटैक ऑन ट्रावनकोर. इन दिस वॉर मराठा एंड निज़ाम फिर से साइडेड बाय इंग्लिश. एक बार ध्यान रख, जिसके बाद मराठा और निज़ाम में उनके पास पूरी फोर्स आ जाती है बेसिकली. एंड विद ट्रीटी ऑफ सेरिंगापट्टनम. रिजल्ट टीपू सुल्तान लॉस्ट. और इसमें ना जो ये था मर भी गया था वो हैदर अली. Result, Tipu Sultan lost. He surrendered half of the territory to the company and its allies. Company acquired Baramahal, Dindigul and Malabar. Two sons of Tipu were kept prisoners with Cornwallis. Immediate context provided by Napoleon's plan to invade India and Tipu consequent negotiation with French. Battle of Seringamapatnam. And result क्या था? Tipu was killed during defense of the city. So अगर हम इन शॉर्ट देखें तो फर्स्ट मैसूर वॉर में ट्रीटी ऑफ मद्रास हुआ था 1769 में. उसके बाद ट्रीटी ऑफ मैंगलोर हुआ था. फिर ट्रीटी ऑफ सेरिंगपट्टनम हुआ था. एंड देन बैटल ऑफ सेरिंगपट्टनम.